Skinner, as they say in Norway, the Rangers FP's fans would be shouting. Also translated as "We are the people." So, um, quite a good squad to finish up my Rangers FPs with. Jelavic was up front, probably the best former Rangers player in the game. He was outstanding when he was here. Couldn't get near him, to be honest. He's probably the last world class player we've kind of had, in my opinion. The goals he scored was just unbelievable. He could do it all. Um, he did relatively well down in the English Premiership as well, but I don't think I don't think he really lived up to his potential in my head of how good he was, unfortunately. But if he'd stayed in Scotland, I'm sure he would have just absolutely tore it up and finished probably the best striker that we've ever had we been able to keep him. Sadly, that wasn't a reality due to finances. Josh Windass, a cracking player, but just never. He just strikes me as the guy who just never understood how good he had it here. He shushed the fans, and I think if you're going to shush Rangers fans, it's never going to work out well for you. But he had bags of quality, and just again, I don't think he'll ever live up to the potential. Far better player than his dad ever was, as far as playing goes. But his dad was a much better football player, if that makes any sense to you. His dad was the complete opposite of him. All work. He was constantly trying to do his best for his team, just getting his head down and just, mucking in. Windass didn't have that. He was the opposite. He shirked away from it and only played when it suited him. So when we got the offer, which was a really good offer from Wigan, yeah, I had to take it. Stephen A. Smith, he had that press conference, but prior to that, he was a sensational player for us. And I think had he stayed, he would now be a Rangers legend, be in the Hall of Fame, still playing for us now. But he was a silly boy, and I think he regrets it now. So what are you going to do? Candeas was one of my favourite Pedro signings. All work. He was really good on his day as well, and he would just give you a power of work down that right hand side, and he was linked up very well with Tav. Can't really fault Candeas at all. Gerard kind of hinted that he might not play all the time, so Candeas was away. That's a pro for you. He just wants to play football. Always got a soft spot for Candeas. Phil Bardsley, he signed under Le Guin, did relatively well, and then I think he had a bust up with him, and he was sent back to Man U. But right back that I always rated, and obviously always liked after his time at Rangers. Fabio Cardoso, signed by Pedro, looked a good player, got a broken nose, and that was the end of it, really. He just never really got his head back into it. But from what I hear, he's doing well in Portugal now, and yeah, not really got any bad words to say about him. Kyle Bartley, signed him on loan from Arsenal. He did very well for us. He also put in a couple of crazy challenges against them, which is always going to endear you to Rangers fans. Played in a very successful team, was unlucky with injury, and then had to get sent home. But had he not had to go through that, he might well have stayed on and been a smashing player for us. But yeah, he's doing all right for himself down in the Championship now. Good lad. Gideon Zalalem, all the hype in the world, and he was a neat little footballer, but he's exactly what you'd expect from a Arsene Wenger youth product. He was very good on the ball. His positional sense was great when we were in possession, but out of possession he wasn't the best player to have around. He did score that penalty against Celtic, so he'll always be remembered fondly for that. Andy Halliday, Rangers man through and through, and I'll always be very fond of his time at Rangers. Treated unfairly under Pedro, in my opinion, and Warburton towards the end of his stint as well. Marty obviously made him a scapegoat as well, but he just kept plugging away, and I think he'll be a real miss for us next season in the dressing room anyways, and as a sub and reserve kind of player. But he would never really trouble our first team now, sadly. He kind of played his way out of it as well by being available to play everywhere, but I think had he said to the management know I'm only going to play midfield, it might be a different story. He might well be starting for us now, but he's a Rangers man and he'll do anything for the club, so got to give him props for that. Lee Wallace, he stayed with us obviously when we went down, and he'll always be thought of very highly in my estimations for that. The way it ended is a bit funny, but yeah, he was a cracking player when he was here. Maybe should have done better when we were down the leagues, but you know what, I think you can only be as good as the guys around you at the same time as only being as good as, like, you know, you can only beat what's in front of you. And I think he suffered for that, but he'll always be thought of very highly in my estimations, and he scored some cracking goals for us as well and provided a lot of assists from defence, which is great from a modern fullback. Gilks is one of those ones that I think he should have got a better chance, in my opinion. I think when we signed him, he was probably a better goalie than Wes, but Wes was still playing ahead of him. Gilks even played against Celtic, and he did really well when we were getting absolutely tonked by them at that time. So, yeah, I think that was a case of he could have been a better player for us, but it is what it is. He did well for us when he was here. Jason Holt, great work ethic and just a good, honest pro. I think that's kind of the best thing you could say. He did really well for us, and for the money that we spent on him and the output we got from him, I think we did really well. And I wish him all the best wherever he ends up next. King never worked out, waste of time and money. Zach Rudden, that's a youngster that I think very highly of. He's now at Partick Thistle, and I think he'll do really well there. And I really hope his career kicks on and he kind of shows Rangers that they were wrong to let him go. O'Halloran, I can't even. Billy King Billy, as the chants went. Yeah, he was fast. As was his time with us. He scored a couple of crucial goals for us when we needed it in the lower divisions. He did okay, but never going to make the grade properly. Terrell was rubbish. I just didn't think anything of him, and somehow he's doing well down in England. I just think the Scottish game didn't suit him. He couldn't handle playing for Rangers at that time. Who knows, maybe if he was in our team now he would do alright, but at the time, I just thought he was just... He just seemed like he was like... You'd turn down his pace and speed on FIFA, and he was playing against guys who had it at normal speed. He just looked so off the pace the whole season. I just kept thinking, oh, you'll get into it, and he just never did. And that's about it. Yeah, that's a regen. Ness, he cracked onto the scene with an amazing goal against them, and didn't really do much else, and left us in 2012. So off he goes. Crooks came to us injured, and obviously I've spoken about other guys who've came to us injured before. It's always going to be difficult, and it was for him. He played, I think, 2 games. One of them was against Hearts, and he wasn't ready for it. He didn't look match fit. He was thrown in at the deep end, and that was him. From then on, he was tarred with that brush of not being good enough, and that was that. And then he's doing all right for himself now, down in the lower divisions in England, and fair play to him. Kiernan, probably the worst centre half I've seen at Rangers since I've watched them, apart from maybe Perry. I would put Krabari above him. I put McCulloch at centre half above him. I know a lot of people don't think a lot of McCulloch there. I actually thought he did okay, but yeah, he was just... He looked the part, he was big, he looked strong, but when you got him on that pitch, he was just lost, just absolutely lost. He was terrible. Garner, he came in as being this amazing player in Warburton's eyes, and he never lived up to it. He had a cracking song, and he did. He worked as hard as he could. He put it about. He scored against them as well, which is always a good thing. But the scoreline is what we remember as opposed to his goal. Yeah. And they are all regens. So yeah, that's the squad that I went into the league with, the Elite Serien, and yeah, we did well. We won 28 of 30, drew 2, scored 82. and as you can imagine, Jelic finished top scorer. Surprisingly, Garner got up there. I actually went to this club because I thought they wouldn't be in any European football tournaments, and they were. So, as it turned out, we ended up being in the Europa League, and we ended up going on to win it somehow. So it was a bit of a strange one because obviously I really didn't expect it, and it was a good run, but it just meant that we had more games. Good fun though. We ended up winning it, as I said, and that's Norway in the bag. And on to the next one. A not bad league, but quite small. A lot of the teams play very similar styles. A lot of the grounds are very similar as well. But yeah, it was good fun. Some of the names that popped up were pretty cool. Scandi names are quite interesting, so that was fun. Yeah, that was a good league all in, and enjoy the highlights. Cheers, bye.